We are beginning the business now, and as the chair of the board has already indicated, this is a panel session where we are looking at the process of curriculum review and reforms in tertiary agricultural education institutions. I have to bring the panelists who will present questions to, and then they will talk as a panel. Professor Olusegun, Yerokun, the Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture, Mulungushi University, he is representing the Southern African deans. Charity begins at home. I'm from Southern Africa. The second is the Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, Professor Kamau, Ngamau, our neighbor in Southern Africa there. The third one is our good brother, our hosting brother, Professor John Ofosu, the Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture, University of Ghana. And last but not least, they say in heaven, the ones who are named last are going to be first, is Professor Yacouba Manjeli, Dean of Faculty of Agriculture, University of Dschang in Cameroon. You can see the panel represents the whole of Africa, basically. In fact, all the rafts are here. The four questions which I'm going to put to the panelists, for each one of them to address, and I'll give them about 5 minutes to just address these questions from their own perspective. There are 3 questions. How does your institution do curriculum reforms, and what are the institutional processes in place for doing this? That's the first question. I didn't give them the question in advance, so they are jotting them down so that they can organize themselves. The second question is, how regularly are you doing this review and reform in your institution? And the last one is, how involved are the various stakeholders, and what role is there for accreditation bodies, ministries, and their quality assurance, and is there quality assurance taking place in your institutions? I would, as you are addressing these, I would also like you to be highlighting what you observe as a problem in the process that's existing in your institutions. And of course, there are more members from institutions who, during the panel period, once the panelists have spoken, you will raise your own issues from your institutions. So it's inclusive in the discussions. Partners also, you should be looking out for questions which you want to raise, because we want to have reforms taking place in our agricultural institutions. Okay, without wasting time, I'll call upon, I'll start now with the Dean Yacouba Manjeli, to start the panel discussion.
Au lieu d'aller très loin, je vais commencer essentiellement par le système LMD, parce que nous nous sommes arrimés à ce système depuis 2007. Le système LMD. On va devoir s'arrimer à ce système licence, master, doctorat. On devrait être au courant de ce système qui est presque international, où on devrait favoriser la professionnalisation, la mobilité des étudiants hein, que chaque étudiant soit capable de bouger, d'aller d'une université à l'autre avec les mêmes, en gardant les mêmes crédits, les mêmes performances dans les universités d'accueil. Les instructions ont été données, les doyens se sont réunis, ils ont réuni tous les enseignants afin de transformer en quelque sorte, de réformer l'enseignement classique au nouveau système. Et le problème qui s'est posé immédiatement, c'est, vous voyez, les précipitations, parce que dès qu'on vous instruit, on demande à 3 mois qu'il faudrait déjà adapter à l'année suivante, à la prochaine année académique. Bon, tout le monde s'est mis dans les précipitations et les enseignements ont été, les cours ont quelquefois été seulement transformés sans entrer dans les détails par rapport au nouveau système. Que les moyens n'étaient pas suivis, même pour les réformes, hein, pendant la transformation et même après la transformation. La dénomination du système L, M et D. Parce qu'après une réunion avec le ministre de l'Enseignement supérieur, qui est porté essentiellement sur la dénomination des différents diplômes à octroyer, nous avons octroyé pour la L comme diplôme d'ingénieur de travaux agricoles, la M comme master professionnel. Souvent, ce n'est pas souvent suivi, c'est-à-dire la régularité de 5 ans. Il est vrai que nous n'avons pas encore atteint. Depuis 2007 qu'on s'est allumé au système, ça ne fait pas encore 5 ans. Mais nous avons déjà commencé à réfléchir sur les nouveaux réformes. Nous prenons quand même la peine d'inviter la plupart des milieux socio-professionnels qui interviennent en milieu rural. En pratique, le ministère de l'Environnement, le ministère de l'Agriculture, le ministère de la pêche, le ministère de Minépia, des animaux, des pêches et des industries animales, le ministère de l'Environnement et tous les autres ministères qui interviennent en milieu rural. Même si ce n'est pas au niveau le plus élevé, nous invitons quand même les représentants dans la région, dans le département.
Having listened to what he has presented, I want to repeat the questions. Please, deans, stick to the questions which we have put across. What I would like you to do is to tell us how the reforms in your institutions are being done, the curriculum reforms. I don't want you to dwell on the systems and the different types of organizations you've got, but the actual curriculum reforms. Well, that's our focus. The other one is, how regularly do you do this? The next one is, do you involve stakeholders? And I listed there the stakeholders you need to bring to inform us about. Thank you very much. I will now call upon Dean Dschang, my neighbor here, to do the same for 5 minutes.
I'll be given 5 minutes to answer 3 questions. Otherwise, I'll be asked to stop work. I'll do well to address the questions within the time given. To talk about the processes involved in curriculum reforms in the University of Ghana. For the University of Ghana, I think I have to state this before I'm jumping to question 2, so that I can continue from there. The policy in the University of Ghana is that we reform the curricula every 5 years. Every 5 years, we got to reform the curricula. And these are the processes involved in the reform. Having run the program for 5 years, each department is supposed to organize a workshop with stakeholders. And at this workshop, the curricula are looked at critically to see whether after 5 years of running that particular program, there are some loopholes or there are certain concerns from both academia and our stakeholders outside the university that need to be taken care of. And when I talk about stakeholders, for we in the School of Agriculture, we look at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. We also look at the NGOs, mainly the NGOs involved in agriculture. Then we also look at our students. This group is very important to the university, our main clients, the students, and of course our farmers who use the end product of our training in the university. So when the workshop is organized, whatever issues that arise are captured, and the department will then incorporate them in the various courses, or let's say program. And then from the department, the reform or whatever has been reformed is then passed on to the school board. In this case, the School of Agriculture Board. The curricula, they are also looked at critically, and where there are some concerns, they are raised, and the department is then asked to take care of those concerns. If the school board is satisfied with the reforms, the curricula is then passed on to the college. In this case, for my university, the School of Agriculture is under the College of Agriculture and Consumer Sciences, and the college has an academic board. So from the school board, the document or the curricula that has been reformed is then passed on to the college's academic board for further consideration. The reforms, the reformed curricula is then placed before the university's academic and curriculum quality and staff development committee. Academic curriculum and quality, academic curriculum quality and staff development committee. Academic curriculum quality and staff development committee. So the document is once again looked at this level. If it passes this committee level, it is then placed before the university's Business and Executive Committee. National Accreditation Board then gives accreditation for the running of such a curriculum or curricula. I should say that, as I've just presented, there are 6 steps that the curricula or curriculum has to go through. And before I'm asked to stop, let me just wind up quickly on this, that you will see that the duration, the time it takes for a curriculum or curricula to be actually approved is quite long in my university. And secondly, when we do the curriculum reforms, we have this problem of taking care of all the interests of the stakeholders. Thank you very much.
University of Agriculture and Technology in Kenya follows closely what has been described by my colleague from University of Ghana. I'll just highlight some key areas where there may be slight differences. The process begins at the department, where usually a departmental committee is charged with the task of either developing a new curriculum or reviewing an existing curriculum. And after they have given their draft, this is presented to the department, which looks at it. And after they have made their input, stakeholders are brought in. Usually stakeholders meeting is organized where the different stakeholders are brought together, including the alumni, including the industry, the Ministry of Agriculture, research institutions, NGOs, and other people in the sector, where they give their input. This is incorporated into the document, and then it is then ready for presentation to the faculty. It's been presented to the faculty board for their input. it is then submitted to the Directorate of Quality Assurance, where the requirements of quality are looked upon, and these ones are from guidelines provided by the Commission for University Education. Once this is incorporated, it is then submitted to the Dean's Committee for consideration. The Dean's Committee gives its input, and it thereafter goes to the Senate for final adoption. We have now a new law which requires that after the Senate of the university has looked upon it, it must then go to the Commission for University Education for approval. During this process, we also have accreditation, the accreditation bodies also looking at it, and for agriculture we have the bodies like the Kenya Veterinary and Kenya Veterinary Board approving programs in veterinary and animal production, and also the Nutritionist Board looking at nutrition programs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. University is barely 5 years old, and so you can imagine what kind of curriculum reforms we have gone through. But having said that, I build upon what we have tried to do at Mulungushi University and the experiences from the University of Zambia, our much older institution. The process of designing programs at Mulungushi University itself, we feel was a curriculum reform process. The first thing that was done was to look at what was often in the country. And University of Zambia was the major institution. And so how could we do things a little different, being less science-oriented and more development-oriented? So we think that is the first step we took, so that our agriculture, if I speak about agriculture and natural resources, the first thing was to be more development-oriented. So we aim to train more managers than scientists. And in that process, some consultation was done with people with stakeholders in the sector. And I speak for other disciplines as well. What is lacking in what we offer in Zambia currently? What would you like to see? And so that helped the design process. Having said that, there's a lot of ideals we strive for, but there's a whole lot that resources also do not allow us to do. On our books, we essentially follow the Senate process, which my colleagues have outlined. But have we implemented all of them? I think we've implemented a few of them. We designed the programs internally, having listened to external stakeholders. And we have an iterative process, which means that within 5 years, we have been able to go back to our curriculum and to look at what is not working based upon interaction with our students and the faculty themselves making observations. We are younger, so our Senate is less rigid than a lot of my colleagues here. And so we're able to sort of drive those reforms along the way. And the Senate forced all the programs, including our agriculture programs, to adopt certain courses, such as entrepreneurship. So we had to, each course has to offer entrepreneurship, microeconomics, ICT, and study skills. So again, these were forced into our programs, whether you like it or not. We felt that was a reform, part of the reform process for us. How regularly are we looking at our curricula for reforms? Informally, it depends on the leadership of the school. We try to, as frequently as possible, per semester, per year, what are we doing right, what is not working well. Again, able to change through our Senate, because we have younger people, so those of us who are a bit older, and I am older in the university, so you can imagine that, we sort of try to push issues through much faster. Do we involve various stakeholders? I would say the level of involvement is low. Initially, when we started the institution, we had some consultation, but now it is more informal than formal. And we are also still tweaking a lot of our courses and things. It will be expensive to go back to these stakeholders for formal gatherings, and so it is less so. Is there a role for accreditation? Zambia traditionally hasn't had an accreditation body at tertiary level. and so institutions have been independent. But recently, Parliament passed a law, and we now have a higher education authority, which will be the accreditation body, again, to monitor for quality assurance. Within the agricultural institutions also, we have been discussing about setting up what could be a Zambia Association of Agricultural Universities and Colleges, which will also help us to harmonize and manage quality within our programs. I think that's a broad overview I could give.
Tracer studies which Anafe has implemented indicate that although there is supposed to be regular review processes and reforms, that it takes 15 years before one is done. And here the deans have the deans who have touched this have said 5 years, 4 years. And I'm sure that my renowned dean there would have probably the same kind of time frame. The question I have is, how many have actually been done? On paper, it's supposed to be 5 years, but really, in reality, how many have been done? The other question which I have, which again I would like them to address, is, in their opinion, when these reforms have been done, these reviews have been done, the new curricula, how relevant has it been to the needs of the market, the employers? Because again, tracer studies have shown that graduates from these institutions are not relevant. They are not half-baked. Such statements have come very clearly from tracer studies. So could they comment on that? And I'll have questions from the floor.
My concern here is that how can we ensure compliance? These are apparently very good practices relating to curricular reviews and curricular development so that we can benefit. Because as been said, most people, you find that curricula are not reviewed, they are not developed at the right time, yet the practices are there. How can we, I think if we could share this, it could be great help to all of us. Thank you.
What possibilities do you have to take initiatives from faculty or university level, from the deans or rectors or chancellors, based on strategic decisions in the management? Can you initiate curricular development processes the other way around also?
But still we can ask ourselves, why are we being accused of producing students that are not fitting in the market? And one of the questions I wanted to know, apart from involving the different stakeholders that you are talking about, what about when it comes to the country's strategic plans? I have in mind, like in our case in Kenya, we have Kenya Vision 2030. Are we trying to realign our program with the country's strategic plan or even the region? Like now we have the NEPAD. We have also multinational organizations where we need to borrow from. How much are we borrowing that? And then to add on that, are we trying to see how do we deliver? Because I think sometimes we may have a very good curriculum, but delivery become a major challenge. How are we trying to follow on the delivery?
Do you have any assessment, student assessment and peer assessment of your teaching? Number two, do you actually have statistics of your graduates that are back in farming? Thank you.
Second question on the value chain orientation. Are we mainstreaming value chain into our curricula? Yes, the ideal thing is to be able to respond to that, but it takes time. At Mulungushi University, for instance, we have taken on a staff development fellow that we're sending to school primarily to work on value chains. We are also currently reviewing applications for staff in agribusiness, again with focus on value chain. It is recognizing the importance, and therefore we hope through that. So it's a process, and it's going on. Our university is out of step with what is happening in practice. it will be good if we have formal arrangements or agreements with the private sector, who are really the incubator of practice in terms of attachment and internship, to assist us to build up on theoretic applications that we give to the students. But there are challenges there, which again we're not addressing here. But it's not as straightforward as universities just, you know, having the opportunity to bring practice along with theory. The third question, why are we accused of producing students that are half-baked? If you go back to the time that you graduated, the industry complained of half-baked students. And here we are producing students again. So I think it's one of those relationships, because of the dynamics that happens in industry and private sector, we shall always hear of it. But you are the same half-baked students who are driving industry and countries now.
About curriculum review, is it reality? Is it done consistently according to the program? In Kenya now, it is institutionalized in the system, and therefore it is very regular. Apart from that, we also have performance contracting, where every institution is required to be able to give performance reports quarterly and annually, and also there are ISO requirements, and this ensures that all these activities are carried out according to their schedule. In the issue of relevance of the curriculum, how relevant is it? And one of the things which I think will come out more in the second session on curriculum delivery is that even if you have a very good curriculum, but you have challenges in delivering it, you'll have problems. Issues of library, lecturers, having adequate practical sessions become a challenge. Other issues which come in include whether the students are able to have the other soft skills that are required, and also the practical experience which is required in attachments and all that. And finally, there is an element of bringing in the industry, in exposure to industry, so that by the time they are getting out there, they are ready to go, ready to hit the ground running. About curricular reform, can it come from the other end, from the university level? Yes, we have an example in Jomo Kenyatta University, where the university introduced the ESD, which is educational, education for sustainable development, and that came from a university initiative, and it was streamlined into all the programs. In terms of, again, relevance, what Professor Kamau had asked, there is a possibility of realigning programs to the development agenda of the country. In Kenya, we have the Vision 2030, and I think the other key issue is to ensure that we are responding to also what is happening out there. Sometimes, if programs are not having adequate number of students, we need to ask ourselves what is the challenge, and especially this is a key problem, a key issue in Kenya, where a lot of the students now coming to university are paying for themselves, and they'll pay for what they find relevant, what they find useful for them, and therefore one needs to find out exactly what what are the needs out there, and develop curricula along those lines. I think those are the key issues I wanted to comment on. Whether we take statistics, yes, we have the alumni office now also involved in tracing our students to ensure that we know where they are, how they're doing, and how they're performing. Thank you.
As well, appreciate the building blocks of our academic institutions basically are the departments. So I think in most of the cases, the review begins at the department. This notwithstanding, the head of department can at any time have an interaction with the dean about new sort of courses that he or she would like to encourage the department to introduce. And a number of such cases actually has occurred under my watch in the university. The compliance, to be honest, is a little bit of a problem. When I was the head of department of crop science, we reviewed one of our programs. That's the only one that I can remember. But about 3 years ago, the university actually embarked on a program to review all our undergraduate programs, whereby a consultant came in, some eminent people came from outside to look at the program that we run in the university and make recommendations for us to ensure that the programs that we run in the university at least conform to international standards. This, I think, is not enough, and we may have to ensure that we actually stick to the policy that we have developed for ourselves in the university. Assessment of teaching, yes, students assess lecturers at the end of I think every semester, so that where there are challenges with regards to delivery or whatever, a report is received from the quality assurance unit and the head as well as the dean to bring the attention of those lecturers involved to this particular issue so that they will take care of that.
Really, I want to thank you all for interest in this panel discussion, and I want to also thank Anafe for allowing my panel to actually express and lead the discussion here. Can we clap for all of us, please? Thank you.
And therefore, let me ask you to thank the chair, the 4 panelists, and all of us for a wonderful time. Thank you.